How many years did y'all practice that one? Most of them don't read music, so it's not like they handed them a sheet and they just read the line. For many, many years, our choirs and the community in which I was raised were just singing by rote. But we didn't know that it was supposed to be difficult. So they just told us that we sang our part. Usually the musician, like David, would have sang the line, and then the sopranos and the altos and the baritone and the bass and what have you would sing it. And we'd get up and do these amazing songs and didn't even know we weren't supposed. I learned how to ski that way by water ski because somebody told me that how simple it was. I was with Colin Steele, who used to build the great big tents for Oral Roberts and the Healing Crusades. He said, let's go skiing. In the middle of the summer, I'd never skied before, even though I'm from San Diego, California, where there's a lot of skiing and surfing. And I said, well, tell me what to do. He said, well, I'll jump out in the water. My wife will push the skis to me. I will put them on while in the water. And I'll count to 3, and she'll come up. She'll pull the boat out, and I'll come right up out of the water, and I'll ski about 12 or 15 miles. Then I'll get back in the boat. I said, that's all that's to it? He said, sure. So he did that, and when he finished, he said, okay, right out at Grand Lake, I popped off in the water, and they sent me my skis. I put them on while in the water, never having done it before, and nodded. She took off. I came straight up, skied about 12 or 15 miles, and then stopped and crawled back up into the boat. And both of them said, oh my God, we didn't expect you to. Nobody comes up the first time, especially out in the middle of the water. I said, you kidding? Why didn't you tell me that? I didn't know I was supposed to get up the first time. I would have fallen a couple of times if you had have told me that. And that's, what is the word? I can ski, but I can't put this thing on. Anyway, happy Resurrection Day to every one of you. Turn to somebody and just give them a high five and say, I'm glad you're here. Tell somebody it's better to be seen than viewed. My subject this morning and throughout the month for all of us here at All Souls is Transcendence. I'm adding to mine your resurrection power. Is this not working? No. Oh. All right. How's that? Well, I don't notice any difference.
Yeah, there you go.
How's that?
Yes.
Shall I tell you the story about skiing? Did you get that story? Thanks to all the musicians. Choir, you were excellent this morning. The youth choir, fantastic. Next time we're going to order, we're going to add an electric guitar to that and some drums and a saxophone and a banjo. That was tremendous. That was tremendous. Thank you again, Dimension Ensemble, for the hard work that you had to put into that song. It was just very, very well done. There have been several man gods or Christ figures throughout human history, all prior to the first century Jesus of Nazareth, who were purportedly born of virgins and who had 12 disciples and who had healing ministries. They were called sons of gods or sons of the gods. Most of them had 12 disciples, supposedly. We can't really trace their exact dates of birth, but they were supposed to have been born of virgins, and that would be Attis of Phrygia in 200 BC, and Dionysius, it was the Greek mythology, 200 before Christ. Horus of Egypt, where we get the word horizon or hour, a sun god, 3,500 years before Christ. Krishna in Hindu religion, 3,200 years before Christ. Mithra, Persia. Zoroaster, 1,200 years. Resurrection has always been a theme of the human experience because we wrestle with the concept of death. We must live, we must die, we must live until we die. And then a lot of us believe we'll live again. Not just people like these who were resurrected supposedly bodily. Christ is the only one, Jesus, whose body we can't find. I've been to both the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem and the Garden Tomb where most Protestant Christians believe Jesus was buried. And both of them are empty, of course. And there's a lot of worship around resurrection. Life wouldn't be defined as life were it not for the concept of death. We're preoccupied with both of them. We feel like they're not necessarily opposites of each other. In a sense, they actually coordinate and cooperate with each other. They're not enemies unless you make them that way. They are partners. Again, we live, we die, we live until we die. They can kind of be allies. They help define each other. And both suggest pre or post incarnations. Most people hope that there's something after this life, and most people suspicion that there could have been something before it. Because every once in a while, we have a sort of deja vu that things are better than they are. And we seek things that we may have never experienced in this life, but we imagine or fantasize that we could realize it. How can you miss something you've never experienced? Unless imaginarily or in some other reality, some pre-incarnate reality, maybe you did experience something that's more blissful, more utopic or utopia. You meaning no, topos, place. Utopia means no place. Wakanda. Or nowhere. If you move the W from where over to no, it means now here. That's transcendence. That's creating another reality that you want to be yours. Transcendence is infinite existence. Infinite means without finish, no end. Anybody who defines you is actually putting a limit on who you are. You are without definition. You can be described and experienced, but don't even try to define yourself, and certainly don't let somebody else do it for you. And then agree with them. They tell you how wonderful you are. Transcendence is existence, experience, or expression beyond the normal or physical level or limitations of the human dimension or domain. It's beyond. In the ether, in the other. Even the word again, when Jesus is supposed to have said and recorded to have said to Nicodemus, you must be born again. Because you come here and recognize me as being of God. You must have had some kind of awakening. And Nicodemus said, I don't know what you mean, born again. The Greek word for again is anothen. A-N-O-T-H-E-N, where we get this word another. You must have had an other or ether, some kind of transcendent experience. You must have had an awakening. You're noticing that the spring seems a little bit late. Our trees are starting to bloom again, flowers, the green is coming in, everybody's getting excited. We think they were dead a few months ago. They were not really dead, they were in hibernation. And they came back, as they come back every spring, even the fall when the leaves change colors. We think they've died, and death is beautiful in its time. We love the fall foliage. And we've learned how to adjust what is beautiful by looking at leafless trees and budless flowers and dead grass or dead looking grass with no color in it. Things without color in it look dead. That's where'd that come from? That wasn't God. Transcendence is also ethereal, spiritual, psychological movement, ethereal motion. My use of the word ethereal is a reference to ether, as I just described, or a reference to the clear sky, the upper regions of air beyond the terrestrial, beyond the clouds, space or being, space out, high, elsewhere, other than, something more than, another place, another space, another pace of consciousness, another movement. Jesus said, in my Father's house there are many mansions or dimensions or places and rooms and floors and spheres, apartments and condos, all the same house. Many mansions are really many dimensions, and we are both multi-dimensional and interdimensional. We move through different experiences of ourselves every day. We learn how to adjust to whatever the circumstance is. We know how to transcend certain modules or modalities or models or forms or formulas or formations or reformations, even deformation when you feel a deformity of the self or so. You know how to transcend beyond it. Sometimes people use a joint, or they use a glass of wine or whiskey or a shot of something to get them into another dimension, and others of us use nothing but consciousness. Some of us automatically transcend. That's part of the resurrection. That's part of the waking up of the self. You've heard me say many times that life is basically a sexually transmitted disease. Your mom and them were intimate, even if they weren't married, and here you are. In the dis-ease or disease or the tension, the anxiety, the angst of being human. Trying to find comfort in your skin, and always preoccupied with the threat of death and the possibility of extended life. Bodily resurrection, we don't know, since some people believe that heaven is some ethereal place where bodies as we experience them here won't be necessary, and that we will be just essence, just spirit. When I say essence, I mean your permanent rather than your accidental self. Your immortal, immutable, immediate, immeasurable self or soul. A part of you that you rarely experience except in contemplation and meditation. When you stop and just feel your being and be your feeling. We are human beings, not necessarily human doings. And a lot of us are spaced out. Or we feel out of space. And we move. You're so tight in that relationship, or tight in that job, or tight in that mindset, or tight in that neighborhood, or tight in that room, and you're struggling and you're strangling and you're choked, and you find a way to make more room for yourself. That's transcendence. We're always trying to make more room for our expanded and expanding self. You're always moving, you're always evolving, you're always expanding, you're always extending, because you are infinite. You don't have an end, and so you just keep on being. Or as Mother Sherman said to me years ago, you just keep on keeping on, baby. Turn to somebody and say, keep on keeping on, baby. So in mythology, because of world culture, it's heavily infused with and influenced by myth and mythology. I use that term. In mythology, the myths, the imaginations, the unproven stories that have been traded down or called traditions. We don't know if any of that ever really happened. We presume it did or has, or we assume that it might, but we don't really know. But in the ether, this is a personification of an upper sky, another place. Something in us is homesick for our better self. We're tired of the bitter self. We keep anticipating that there is more than we've experienced, not only here, but everywhere. That there is more, can be more, that you can be more. That's your soul reminding you of who you are, that you really are without limits except in your thought life. That's the part of us that is divine. We bridge our humanity to our divinity and spend our human experience doing that, either inadvertently or consciously. We try to get you to do it deliberately, to think beyond any limitation that you have imagined is yours. The fact that we have these things with all this information, and I always like to remind you that the apple on this one has a bite out of it. This is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil right here in your hand. There's the iPad and the iPhone and the iCloud. Mysticism. Moisture, that's what you are. As adults, you're 50% moisture or water. When you're born, because you spend the first 9 months of your life swimming, talk to me somebody, in your mother's amniotic fluids. You came here with gills, your fish face. You came in here swimming. You came here swimming, and then you came out 80% water. Your brain still is. And as you mature, you become 50% moisture. You have 100,000 miles of arteries in your full adult body. Most of them are microscopic. Vamping and coursing through those veins and arteries is blood, salt water, hemo. You're so alive. You're so mysterious, or there's a myth-story or mist-story about you. When you transcend, you get into the mist or the mysticism. You literally get spaced out. Sometimes you do that in prayer. Sometimes I can sit and listen to David play the keyboards. He's so blessed he can actually sit by himself and just go to 3 or 4 or 5, 10, 500 other worlds just playing chords. I've been around him when he doesn't even play the same chord twice in the same song. Remember, the word music comes from the word muse, which means to think. It's the science of the musings. To amuse is to stop thinking. And you need to know how to do both. Some of us are real good at the stop thinking. We amuse ourselves because thoughts are inventive and powerful and creative. Sometimes we don't want to create anything, so we try to stop thinking. But you really can't stop being. And I often say that the universe doesn't judge us so much by what we feel, but by what we think about what we feel. Thinking is a form of transcendence. Musing is a form of transcendence. You're getting several thousand thoughts a minute. Just hearing this conversation that we're having, which seems a little bit one-sided, it really isn't, because you're actually having a conversation with my conversation and with all the passengers that you're carrying in the bus you're driving. We all travel along, but none of us travels alone. We pick up passengers along the way. Talk to me, somebody. Hitchhikers in there. They're nameless and faceless, but they're in there and they have opinions, and they're always sharing them with you. In one sense, we all have a kind of a personality disorder or personality order or personalities out of order. We're not clinically diagnosed as that, but I know I have different personalities that transcend another personality to try to deal with your personality. I have a part of me that's angry and frightened and intimidated and jealous and envious and competitive and negative, that demeans and denies and demands me. I'm always wrestling with that. Then I have a kind, gentle, compassionate, loving, sensitive, sharing person that's full of faith and boldness and courage and adventure and curiosity, and I'm fascinated, and I go through those different floors and spores, spaces and places in a single day, sometimes a single hour, sometimes a single minute. You ever been around somebody that just shifts personalities in a matter of seconds? And that was that morning in the mirror where you were brushing your teeth. It was you in there moving. I've done all of that kind of a thing. I'll sit, and I see Clark here this morning, who owns the Cinema Circle, where we'll be. Where are you, Clark? We'll be premiering the movie come Sunday, next Sunday, at 2:00, and that's one of 3 theatrical performances. There's going to be one the next day in L.A. and later on in the month in New York. But I sit there and I see a person, one of my personalities that I transcended. And I weep through a lot of it. My emotions are still quite raw. And I die and I resurrect, and I die and I resurrect, and I die and I resurrect in 90 minutes. And I'm 65 years old, and I've been dying and resurrecting, coming and going all these 65 years, entering different dimensions of myself, going on different floors, finding rooms I didn't know were in me, still opening baggage or luggage, stuff I've lugged. That's what luggage means. You're lugging it. I lugged this for 65 years, and I've got luggage and baggage I haven't even opened. I forgot why I brought it. I don't even know what's in it, and so do you. Several $billion are spent in this country every year, and only the last maybe 15 years have we had storages at the level that we do. Everybody has storage and baggage and stuff in the attic and in the basement, and things you haven't seen or used in 30 years. You're paying for stuff in storage that you haven't used in 40 years, and excuse the grammar, ain't gonna use in 40 years. And you paying all that money, and you done forgot what's even in there. Clean all that stuff out, clear that clutter out, and start living again. Talk to me, somebody. My mother's here, so I won't say anything about it, but Mother keeps everything. I'm not going to bring it up, but Mother don't throw nothing away. I'm not going to say anything about it because she's here, but she just clutters up things. Her clutter is at least organized. Your mama still thinks she got 6 kids at home to feed. It ain't nobody but me. And she living with me, so I'm feeding her. Talk to me, somebody. But we do carry things through life, and life is a constant transcendent thing. Even this particular Unitarian Universalist movement was birthed out of people who were transcendentalists. People like Ralph Waldo Emerson. We named the room over there after him. David Thoreau, who studied under him. These guys were mystics. Sometimes they were more spiritual than the whole movement. But we could reclaim our spiritual essence, that part of us that transcended. Let me see if I could, I'm almost finished. I want to read some of the amazing coping mechanisms that we use that as transcendence, because we're all trying to resurrect a part of ourselves that seems dead or dying. Every day, all of us have memories and memories that nurture usually pain, male or female. Our life is as a composite of a bunch of memories, things that used to be. Things in ways that are either very, very painful. Some people develop personality disorders because of the most traumatic and painful experience they ever had in their life. Many of them were sexually abused or psychologically abused or physically abused or all of the above. And they had developed personalities to transcend one and to cope with an issue. And they're clinically diagnosed, as I said earlier, as such. But the rest of us do it the same way without being clinically diagnosed. And this is group therapy today. How do I get all my personalities in order? All of them work. All of them have a reason for being, or they wouldn't be there. I just want to keep them in order. There's a time to be a little bit intimidated or to have a little timidity, to be careful about something. There's a time to have a distaste about something. There's a time to make a choice. There's a time to let something go and seem to be weak. There's a time not to enter a conflict. There's a time to be very confrontive and not necessarily combative. Then there's a time to be both. Talk to me, somebody. As long as that personality is in order, you all right. But when they get all jumbled up, that's why I say we have all these hitchhikers and these passengers that are riding along with us, and they're all making suggestions. You're having a completely different conversation with one of your personalities right now. One of them passengers in your boat. Sometimes you can look at somebody walking down the street and they move in the mouth and they don't have a cell phone on. They talking to one of them personalities in there. And we all have them. Sometimes when you're single, you talk out loud more because ain't nobody listening but you and them personalities. I didn't realize how much I talked to myself until I got married. And then I had to tone it down because they were getting all my secrets out and all. We talk, we express, we expose, we expel, we experience, we expand. We're always express. That means you're pressing something out of you that's in you and needs to come out and find its space and place and find its freedom. I've never felt freer in my life. I've never felt more self-confident. I confide in myself than I do right now. I'm even beginning to identify some of those passengers, some of those personalities, some of those opinions. I know which ones to reject, which ones to experience. What do you say to all those voices? Some are very critical. Some are just critique constructively. Some of them denounce, some of them deny, but you're dealing with all of them right now. You're going to have a conversation with the person you love the most. And you hear your great-grandmother who died 57 years ago with her opinion. You hear your second-grade teacher's opinion. Come on, talk to me. You hear a coach's opinion about you. And then after all of that, you try to decide which is your opinion about you. What do you do with all those voices? Sometimes I tell them, just shut the front door. Hand went up, somebody quick and whoa, thank you, God. Hey, glory to God. What? We're constantly dealing with these persons. I should have marked it. It's exactly wanted to read something that I can get beyond the superstitious part of ourselves. That who did I name the room after over there? Ralph Waldo Emerson. For years, when I first got here, I thought it was somebody in the church named Emerson that gave some money. I didn't. I was wishing my name was Emerson. We are celebrating our amazing reality. Anyway, close your head. Let's pray. Because that's what you do when you run out of things to say or you can't figure out what you want to say. This was a very powerful poem. It's right at the end here. You want me to tell you before we give announcements? I'm going to tell it anyway. Okay, I'm very close to it. I wrote this last night really fast, and I didn't actually identify. I turned to somebody and said, there, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, central figures. Transcendentalism initially was a system developed by Immanuel Kant based on the idea that in order to understand the nature of reality, I'm almost finished, one must first examine and analyze the reasoning process that governs the nature of experience. Powerful. Superstition is also commonly applied as beliefs and practices surrounding, luck and prophecy and all that kind of thing. But Ralph Emerson said after those, wait a minute. I got it right here, I promise you. Use your imagination. Okay, here's what he says. From the earth, he wrote this in a thing called Nature. From the earth as a shore, I look out into the silent sea. I seem to partake its rapid transformations. The active enchantment reaches my dust, and I dilate and conspire with the morning wind, postulating that humans and wind are one. That's what he thought. Emerson referred to nature as the universal being. He believed that there was a spiritual sense of the natural world around him. Depicting this sense of universal being, Emerson states, the aspect of nature is devout. You can see trees. You can see the pines. You can see the sky. You notice we don't have stained glass windows. I used to really not like that. Now I love it because I can see outside through the transparency and translucence of the light, and I see nature. Like the figure of Jesus, she stands nature with bended head, he writes, and hands folded upon the breast. The happiest man is he who learns from nature the lesson of worship. Isn't that beautiful? Go back and get the tape. You'll hear what I just read because you didn't get most of it. Wrap your arms around yourself right quick. Yeah. Because I took so long to get to it, right? You are natural, you are nature, and you are nurtured. Don't denounce your nature, don't deny it, nurture it. Don't try to correct, just enhance who you are. You really don't have an enemy. All things really do work together. The bitter and the sweet, the garlic, the onion, the tomato, the okra, the black-eyed pea in a stew. We're not just a melting pot, we're a stew. We all maintain our identity, but we stew together and start tasting a little bit like each other. And I think of all the bitterness that I've gone through that I was able to somehow transcend. Megyn Kelly asked me last week on the Today Show, did you ever think of where you'd be if you had stayed where you were? If you had never expressed your disbelief in hell at the way that you do. Initially, I believed in hell. I just didn't believe anybody would be there. Now I don't even believe in the obscenity that it is. There's nothing redemptive in eternal torture. Doesn't make sense to me. The Pope recently said that. What if there wasn't this tortured place or a God who would create something like that? Maybe we need to find another definition or experience of God. One that doesn't have anger management issues. One that doesn't throw tantrums and volcanoes and tsunamis and tornadoes and cancer and AIDS. One that doesn't sponsor war or people who advance it. What if God was kinder? What if we use the word compassion more than love? Because love can be very sloppy. Love can be raggedy. Nobody can hurt you like somebody you love. Sometimes nobody can hate you like somebody you love or who loves you. So why don't you use the word compassion, because it's more engaging. Compassion means you feel like you've got your arm around your wife and you've got to feel her, feel what she's experiencing, feel what she's expressing. Identify with each other. That's compassion. That goes actually deeper than love. It's a form of it, huh? Touch yourself one more time. We're stopping. Feel you, think you, honor you, celebrate you, even transcend you to your other selves. And learn how to be with honor, be with dignity. Honor your truth, own your truth, be the truth, and tell it. Thank you, great God, however you express yourself into, through, and as us, that we can identify our own divinity and make a choice to bridge it to our humanity. We're grateful for these powerful possibilities and realities, even the imaginations and the fantasies that we really are good and God's. Thank you for the opportunity and the freedom to think, to renew, to know who we are and even who we aren't. It's all good because it's all God. Everybody say, thank you, God, in me. Say, thank you, God, in me, and God as me. I love you. Don't forget me when you're rich and famous. God bless you.
You're visiting with us online today. We love connecting with people all across the country and around the world, sharing our powerful message of love beyond belief.
There's something new happening here. You can now join All Souls as a virtual member. Our virtual membership is designed for friends who live outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who want to engage with All Souls in a meaningful way.
You can be part of an expanding family, a global family really, wherever you are. If you live in Oklahoma,
Ohio,
or Orange County, California,
Canada,
or Cameroon. By becoming a virtual member, you'll be able to deepen your connections with members and friends here in Tulsa and with members wherever you are.
Each week, you'll receive special All Souls content tailored for you, our virtual members. Virtual members have access to pastoral care, to personal prayers, and also receive invitations to exclusive web events.
You can learn more, and if you're ready, you can become a virtual member today by visiting allsoulschurch.org/virtual membership.
We're grateful our ministries are having a positive impact on your life, and we want to share the good news of love beyond belief with more and more people. So no matter what, we need your support to keep this ministry growing and thriving, so please consider making a gift today. You can do so by texting
LOVEBB for Love Beyond Belief to 73256 or simply visit our website. You are a blessing in our lives. May you be blessed
and be a blessing.